Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Keys to Maximizing Second and Third-Party Leads. My name is Eliana Raggio, and I'll be your moderator today. And today's webinar is being presented by DealerOn. And for anyone who isn't familiar with DealerOn, well, we're an award-winning website development company and digital agency, best known for our search engine optimization, best-in-class customer service, and our award-winning websites. DealerOn was named the top-rated website provider by Driving Sales in 2012, and DealerOn customers were winners of the Spring and Fall 2012 Digital Dealer Website Excellence Awards, including the highly coveted overall winner. DealerOn is so committed to lead conversion, optimization, and customer service that we're the only company in the industry to offer a money-back lead guarantee program. Oh yeah, money-back lead guarantee program. So if your website company isn't guaranteeing you leads, well, then maybe you should check us out at dealeron.com. And we have such a great show in store for you today. We're very pleased to have Marc McGurren as our presenter today. Marc McGurren joined PCG Consulting Inc. as a partner in January of 2012. Formerly as the Internet Director of the Jerry Durant Auto Group, located in Weatherford, Texas, Marc has more than 8 years of automotive experience, and he has held positions that range from salesperson, sales manager, finance manager, general manager, assistant service and parts director, as well as his last position as Internet Director. His passion and desire to execute digital marketing strategies is contagious, and his track record of "you can't fix what you don't know" helped the Jerry Durant Auto Group have the best year in 42 years and sell over 10,800 cars in 2011. Most recently, Marc was featured on the cover of WardsAuto Dealer Business Magazine for his strategies on being one of the top GM internet dealerships in the country. He's a regular contributor and former community editor for DrivingSales.com, speaker at multiple automotive conferences, including the Digital Warrior Academy, Digital Marketing Strategies Conference, CADA Innovative Summit, the Digital Dealer Workshops, and Driving Sales Executive Summit. Marc is an avid traveler and writer and can be reached at marc@pcgmailer.com. Now, during the presentation, if you have any questions, please use the question feature located on the corner of your screen to submit them. At the end of the presentation, we'll answer those questions of general interest. If we're unable to get to your question live, don't worry, we're going to respond by email later today. Also, don't forget, a link to download a copy of the webinar recording will also be emailed to you later today for your reference, and please feel free to share it with friends and colleagues. And oh yeah, DealerOn is going to be at the upcoming NADA convention in Orlando. So if you're going to be there, well, we want to see you. So come visit us at booth 3259. That's 3259. And let's talk about websites, SEO, digital marketing, conversion rates, whatever. And I have so many announcements to make. I'm going to be there. I want to meet you. But you got to come and find me because I'm going to be giving away tickets to NADA's Ultimate Party at the Blue Martini Nightclub on Saturday, February 9th from 9 p.m. to whenever we feel like stopping. So you got to come and find me for that. And if that wasn't enough of a reason to come visit us, you got to stop by our booth anytime between February 8th and February 11th and speak with a DealerOn representative, and you could win our grand prize, a free franchise website for 1 full year. No strings attached, but let me tell you, it's valued at $18,000. Whew, makes me sweaty just thinking about it. Also, you got to check out the speaking session from Jeff Clark. He's our Executive Vice President of Business Development here at DealerOn, and he's going to be talking about digital strategies to double your fixed ops profits. Now, who doesn't need that kind of help? So we look forward to seeing you there at booth 3259. And oh yeah, PCG will also be at the upcoming NADA convention too. They're going to be at booth 137. So easy to remember. So don't be shy. Stop by and say hi and find out about their amazing new tool, ROI Bot. It's the first and only vendor-neutral platform that gives you insights into all of your marketing activities by consolidating all of your vendor reports into one easy-to-use executive dashboard. Not only will you be able to see ROI Bot in action, but you can also check out the book that everyone's been waiting for, Selling Cars in the Digital Age, where Brian Posh, Marc McGurren, Glenn Posh, and Edward Schaefer share what the most successful car dealers in the country are doing to amplify their profits in an increased digital world. Well, we can't wait for that. And guess what? Our good friends at PCG are offering up a great prize today for everyone on the webinar. Oh, yeah, that's right. Everyone's a winner today. Every person on the live broadcast is going to receive a copy of the best-selling ebook, Unfair Advantage. An incredible collection of nationally renowned marketers and auto retail experts came together to reveal their game-changing secrets. Secrets that include how smart mobile marketing ads can increase conversion by 300%, how to optimize your internet marketing budgets to increase sales and profits, how to make your business every customer's first choice, how to increase internet CSI scores through social media investments, and the latest Google products that will increase market share and penetration, and so much more. You'll find over 200 pages filled with practical and proven tips and techniques. Put them into action and you'll be sure to have an unfair advantage over your competition. Cool stuff, right? We want to thank PCG for their generosity. Also, at the conclusion of the webinar, you're going to receive a short survey. Please fill it out because we're always looking for great feedback from our valued audience. And today we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all the completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. So let's get started. Let's learn the keys to maximizing second and third party leads. Marc McGurren, how the heck are you today?
I am absolutely doing fantastic, Eliana. How are you?
I'm doing so good, and I'm so excited that you agreed to do this webinar. We've been talking about it for a long, long time. I think we planned this last October for you. I finally got you here.
I know. It's good to be here. You guys are doing a great job of the webinar, and I'm glad to be a part.
Very, very happy about it. Now, as I understand it, there's a lot of people out there who need help with their second and third party leads. They're a lot different to handle than leads that come right off of your website, right?
That is absolutely correct. So when you asked me, it's like, Mark, what do you want to talk about? You know, you've had some great speakers on here, and as I went through kind of the wheelhouse of stuff as I'm traveling, what I'm continuing to see in dealerships all across the country is a kind of a cookie-cutter approach to all leads. And so one thing we've done in all of our travels, is starting to change our processes on how we're handling the second and third party leads. And that's kind of like, you know what, let's do a short presentation on how dealers, such as the folks that are on here, how they can actually ultimately sell more cars through all their dealers, Auto USA, all those other funds, autotradercars.com. So that's kind of where my heart and passion is today.
And you know what? It must be on the minds of everyone else, too, because we have a lot of people on the webinar, a lot of people registered. So where do we get started?
Well, I first have to, my only order business, yes, I do work for PCG Consulting, and yes, that's kind of how I get paid, and what pays the bills, and helping me and my soon lovely bride-to-be buy our new house coming up, is through consulting. So I do want to ask this real quick, Eliana, before we get started, my only plug, not even a plug, it's just, I'm just curious. I'd like to ask the audience that's here, have you guys ever used a digital marketing consultant trainer that was not provided by the manufacturer? So I'm just curious if we can pop up that poll real quick, Eliana, and have everyone fill out real quick, just a few quick seconds to figure out, just so I can have a better idea of who we have and who has helped, or who has had help on the call.
Okay, Mark, we're definitely going to do that. And Mark, if you could also check your microphone. I have a lot of people writing in that it's hard to hear you. But people, okay. Guess what? We are going to have a great show today. We have a lot of poll questions for you, so very, very interactive today. And we're going to start with this one. So please select one of the following answers. So have you ever used a digital marketing consultant or trainer at your dealership that was not provided by the manufacturer? So your answers are, yes, it was a great experience. I'd recommend it. Yes, but I had a bad experience. Yes, I used one of your competitors. No, but I would consider it. Or no, never. So all you have to do is go to your keyboard, type, click on or use your mouse and click on that response and send it in. And once we get a majority of the votes, we're going to close the poll, share the results, and then Mark is going to be well equipped to see how he can address everyone's concerns. All right? So, Mark, are you ready?
I'm ready to rock.
Oh, you sound good. Okay, so hopefully no one has any more problems hearing Mark, and we still have some votes coming in. Mark, any clue as to which one you think is going to win out on this?
I think it's going to be some folks, they haven't used one, I would think, but I could be wrong. We have some great consultants all through the industry, so myself and many others are helping dealers all across the country, so I don't know. There's not too many of us, but you never know. So
Well, you know what? We are getting a lot of votes in right now, and almost everyone has voted, and I want to thank the audience. I love it when you guys get involved. It's so great. So I'm going to close this poll and share the results. Almost everyone voted, and I want you to know 43% of today's audience said, in fact, no, they have never used a digital marketing consultant, but they would consider it. 26% said, yes, it was a great experience. I would recommend it. 22% said no, never. So you're right. A majority of today's audience, 65% of today's audience have never tried a digital marketing consultant. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
7% of today's audience said they use one of your competitors, and 2% said yes, but they had a bad experience.
Yeah, never like a bad experience.
Never like to hear that story. But now that we have that information, Mark, where are we going from here?
Well, if we're going from here, if I can get my thing up here, we're going to rock on. We're ready to rock. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, it looks great.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you guys again for taking time on the last day of the month to spend some time with me and Eliana. And just kind of want to, I'm going to do as fast as I can. We want to make this interactive as possible. So feel free to write in, ask some questions. I will field those at the end of the session if we have time. And if not, we'll definitely make sure we get those answers to you via email. So again, today I want to talk about maximizing second and third-party leads, and what we ultimately want to walk away with is that why we need second and third-party leads. That's a big question is I want to kind of share you my story of why I think that's the case. Also, which one's the best, right? Everyone's wondering, do I use Helix or RHA, Cars.com, Auto Trader, who's the best? We're going to talk about that. Also, we're going to look at the problem and solution. What I mean by that is that what we're seeing across the country is that many folks, there's a problem handling second and third-party leads. And ultimately, hopefully we'll give you some solutions to help you actually sell more cars, okay? Lastly, a big thing, or not lastly, I got one more actually after this, is how to communicate and set expectations. That's a huge, huge impact that I think that anyone will walk away, whether it's first-party leads, second-party leads, or third-party leads, it's good for everyone to understand. And lastly, I'm going to spend a brief moment on understanding personality selling, which will also help you with second, third-party, and first-party leads. So what I want to get, if you take some time, if there's any specific questions when you came here after you read the bio, what we're going to be talking about, if you have any specific questions, please write in right now, because I really want to know what you guys, your goals are that I hopefully can walk away, or as I'm speaking, can address to you as I'm speaking through that.
Yeah,
so take some time. If there's anything, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, thank you so much, Mark. That's a great idea. We still are having people who are having a hard time hearing you. Is there any way you can get closer to your microphone?
I actually am. I got this. I love my iPhone, but that's why no headphones, no nothing. So I'll do the best I can.
Okay.
To speak to that. So I don't know if I'm speaking too loudly, but I will do my best. Feel free to. I'll probably pull it away. Maybe that'll help, so it's not so breaking up. So sorry about that, guys. We had it all under control, but God bless Apple, and hopefully my iPhone will continue to work or not work. So. Okay, so the case for second and third-party leads and why they ultimately are our friends. Yes, second and third-party leads are our friends. Let me tell you my story. I wasn't part of the Jerry Durant Auto Group. We were on a shoestring budget for our large auto group. I mean, we had, so 11,000 cars, right? So, but ultimately, we were pretty tight on our money. And so, ultimately, I personally didn't think that I needed them. Some folks on the cross feel the same way. Why? Because my SEO was good, right? My SEO was great. Why do I need to come and find second and third-party leads? If my SEO is strong, we have good branding, our traditional advertising is working, why do I need it? And ultimately, I know you guys run across this as well. I didn't like the certain reps. I mean, God bless a lot of these folks, but I just didn't click with some of them. So I let my personal biases get in the way of getting a second, third-party leads, whether they were good or not, right? And ultimately, I didn't know who to trust because they were all saying they were the best. I'm the best. Buy from me. Buy from me. We're doing great. We're doing great. because all of them were doing this. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all, right? So we have all these leads, and it was very difficult to go, who's the best? I got Delix, AOL, BHIX, Edmunds.com, USA, ZAG, TrueCar, AutoTrader, AutoBytel, Kelly Blue Book, Cars Direct, and I know I'm even missing a whole bunch of them. So ultimately, I didn't know who to choose. And you kind of get stuck in that rut, and it's like, crap, there's so many people to choose from. Who should I choose, right? So this is one thing that I learned. This is what I want you guys to walk away with, is that one of the things, this is actually Brian Pash mentioned this, and this was before I worked for PCG, is I heard him speak one time, and this is what he said. He said, we are in the business of merchandising and marketing our vehicles. And so, who's the best? I don't know. Each people do well, and each people do differently. Each market's differently. And so I'm not going to sit here. I am vendor neutral. There are certain lead providers that do well in other certain areas in certain times. That's why 20 groups. That's why being online and being involved with other folks is so beneficial. But this is through the process. I also said that I always try someone once. Yes, I literally said that I love my vendor if you help me sell cars. The great news about what we do, if I get a lead in from Delix, I get a lead in from Cars.com, I get a lead in from Auto USA. If we do a good job in our CRM processes, again, if we have processes that someone says they can hear better, but that I always try them once because we can track it. We are vendor. We're very transparent with what we do. Okay? So I am so glad that this is something I learned. It took me a while. I had to put my own personal prejudice, my own personal biases out the window, and I had to sit there and go, you know what? I'm going to try anyone. Anyone? Yes, anyone, okay? Because ultimately, remember, we are in the business of merchandising and marketing our vehicles, okay? So going back to who's the best, I don't know. If you're in East Coast, Left Coast, Midwest, Texas, up to Michigan, I would challenge each and every one of you guys to go to your dealer principals, your GM, your decision makers that are going, hey, I don't want to spend more money. Okay, not a problem, boss. We spent X amount of dollars on newspaper, radio, XYZ. I want to try this new vendor out. And boss, I'm going to track this. Boss, I'm going to see how many we got coming in, how many we're going to sell, and it's an ROI. Because typically, even in a lot of times, these vendors will give you a 30-day trial or at least a break, right? So as you go to these conferences, whether it's NADA, the digital marketing strategies beforehand, and it's coming up next week, driving sales, digital dealer, all of those, talk to the vendors. Do not let your personal biases from that vendor rep change your attitude, because it's all about services. Ultimately, you have to have a vendor that's going to service you, that's going to take care of you, that's ultimately going to be your friend. Because if they're my friend, if I help them sell, if they help me sell cars, right? Our job is to move metal. And if I can get on AOL, it's going to help me move metal, I want to be there. VHIX, then try them. Delix, Auto USA, whatever the case may be is. But folks, try them. That's the thing, is that because ultimately you got to have the processes in place. You don't want to overwhelm your staff with too many leads, but we do need them because we have to get out there to market and merchandise our vehicles. Because once those vehicles are out there in the market, the eyeballs are on them, right? And ultimately they can see what I have. They might not find me, my SEO. They might not find me. We are very, we get in our circles of, people think like us. People don't think like us. And so I would challenge you guys that there's folks out there that help us sell our cars and market our cars. So that's, I am vendor neutral. All those folks that you saw up on the screen earlier, I think the Jerry Durant Auto Group, I've used every single one of them. And I fired a lot of them, and I kept a lot of them. But that's what I want to challenge you guys to do, is as long as you can approach it to your dealer principal, all people, all car guys, GMs, are in the business of making money. And if we can present to them a way that we're going to make money, I think they're going to listen. So if you got to learn how to present and do the whole political back and forth to figure out how you can present to your GM, the decision makers, and ultimately help you get these leads in your bucket. Okay? So that's kind of the eeny, meeny, miny, mo, who's the greatest of them all, mirror, mirror on the wall, all that fun stuff. But I do got to ask this. Cars.com, Auto Trader, the friend or foe, right? That's a huge one I get all the time. I could do a whole session on it, and one of the best sessions I have was a while back at a conference, and I didn't do the talking. The dealers did the talking. So, Eliana, can we put up another poll so we can move? I'm just curious, which lead provider do our folks on the call actually use?
Okay, let's ask. Okay, audience, if you could get in front of your keyboard and vote on this poll question. We want to know, which lead provider do you currently use? Is it autotrader.com only? Cars.com only? Do you use both? Do you use neither? Or is it really neither? I prefer to spend my money on pay-per-click. So everyone has a different way of doing things. There's no wrong answer here. But it's funny. I think you're right, Mark. I think that's kind of a polarizing thing. Some people are really all about Auto Trader, and some people are really all about Cars.com, and some people find a way to make them both work.
Mm-hmm. And I just had this call with actually it's a dealer yesterday with the Auto Trader rep, and I'm like, man, it's all about the VDPs. It's all about seeing what folks can do. And if we can spend a little bit more and get more VDPs and get more folks' eyeballs on our cars, more chances I'm going to get to see my get an opportunity to sell a car.
Right. So, you know what? Almost everyone's voted on this. Thank you so much, everyone, for your votes. Let's close the poll and share the results. 68% of today's audience said that they use both Auto Trader and Cars.com. And we have 13% of today's audience who said Auto Trader only. That's it. Just Auto Trader. 10% of today's audience says they are Cars.com people through and through, and 9% of today's audience say that they don't use either of them. So what do you think about that, Mark?
It's surprising. I think that it really is surprising. You have Cars.com, you've got Auto Trader. This is my answer to that, going back to what we're in the business of. We're in the business of marketing and merchandising our vehicles. Love them or hate them, right? Auto Trader is not cheap. Cars.com is not cheap. But ultimately, it's all about getting eyeballs on the vehicles. Time and time again, that's where customers find it. They want to look. They don't want to necessarily have to go to website to website to website. Just like because they're only going to 1.3 dealerships today. I think they're 1.2 or something like that. Whatever it is, it's one. Right? Because they want to know the inventory. So if my inventory is not out there, my competitor's inventory is out there, and by golly, I want to be out there because you can watch your VDPs, you get your dealer scorecards through Auto Trader, you can see what the other folks in the market are doing. Cars.com has a similar report. You can see how well you're doing compared to the market. Guys, it's not cheap. I get that, but ultimately that's where eyeballs are at. Love them or hate them. Your pay-per-click's not going to always get you there. Auto Trader spends $1 bazillion on marketing. Cars.com doesn't spend as much, but they're on all the newspapers. They are infiltrating. They've done a phenomenal job of getting and marketing their product. And their product is selection. If I'm not on there, they can't select me, and they can't find my inventory. So, to me, they are a friend. Tell you a story of mine. I was looking at mine. I was tracking my Auto Trader leads. I was spending, it was my most expensive lead source, which probably is most everyone else's most expensive lead source. And through my trackable results, and anyone that knows me, I'm huge on, you can't fix what you don't know, and tracking all that. I think it was averaging me, it cost me $1,000 a sale through Auto Trader from what I was tracking. So I went to my GM, went to my dealer principal, and said, you know what, let's shoot him in the head, let's get rid of him. I don't know. Auto Trader said, no. I said, I shot him in the head, right? Our phone calls went down. Our traffic went down. We didn't sell as many cars. That's the biggest part that I had to learn, to put my pride aside and look at and go, all right, that's where the eyeballs are at. I groveled back to Auto Trader. and said, I'm sorry. I don't know if I said I'm sorry, but I groveled back and said, let's get back on. And I spent almost double what I had, and we sold more cars. And so they are our friend. We've got to be there. Ultimately, I don't want to talk. That's all I want to talk about are lead sources. Who's the best? Try them once. But I want to kind of get into how to maximize them. Because we got to choosing, let's try them all once, let's track them, figure out what we can do. But ultimately, how can we sell them once we get in the door, okay? So let me get back on the screen. Our second party. What I basically learned is that from Lynn Critcher and eCarList. I used eCarList for our website when I was at the Jerry Durant Auto Group. Lynn Critcher was the CEO. Was how important. This is very basic. But we've got to have photos and descriptions. We have to have photos of our new cars. If the folks that are on this and the folks that will be listening to after this, if you do not have photos of new vehicles, find someone to do it. Pay someone to do it. Pay your inventory provider to do it. At least get 6 pictures up there. I mean, folks, we can't have the cookie cutter stock photos. We can't. Because ultimately, if they're going to find me on these second parties and third parties, and even if my SEO is great, I want them to lick the paint off the paint. I want them to lick the door handles off the car, right? I want them to have an emotional connection with that car. They're not going to do that with a stock photo, which is what every other dealership has. And more folks are getting this way. If you don't, spend the extra money because you're going to get more BDPs. You're going to get more clicks because people they don't want to show up to your dealership and not know the car is there. If an actual photo is there, an actual car is there, and they see that, they can see the car is there. They resonate with that, right? Okay? Ultimately, that does help us show up because they're going to come. They will show up because they know the car's there, okay? It's going to make the phone ring. Why? Because they know the car's there. And ultimately, it's going to increase the leads because they know the car is there, because they're looking for if the car's there. That's what you have to do, okay? So what makes second and third-party leads different? They really are higher in the purchase funnel. They're not on your website. They're finding out what they're looking for. You look at all the statistics that Auto Trader and Cars.com and KB and all those folks do, is they're searching. They're trying to figure out what they're at. If you don't guys know this, I think the statistic is people are considering 4 brands. Not too many folks are brand specific, but even if they are brand specific, they're trying to find their Silverado they're looking for, right? They don't want to have to search around website to website to website. I can go to Auto Trader and find out what everyone's at. That's going to make my life easier, right? You also got to realize that multiple dealers are receiving the same lead. Joe Smith is going, hey, I'm interested in this Honda Accord. And he's going to reach out to your competitor to go, hey, I'm interested in your Honda Accord, okay? We have to realize that. In third-party leads, one thing that's going to be considering is they're not necessarily specific. They're not really options, right? They really aren't. So the problem that we have right now multiple times is that we get this in, get the lead in from the customer. Sometimes we get their name and email address. Sometimes we don't get their phone number. And that all we know, if anyone's a GM dealer, we can see from April, they're just interested in a new Chevrolet Suburban LS 2-wheel drive, right? Okay, this is a GM third-party lead, but by golly, how many versions of the LS can you get? I sold GMs, and it's a ton. What options do you want, right? You look down here, this customer is interested in an Infiniti QX56. Came from a third-party lead, right? It came in, and then what happens is, so we get the lead, and we go, what do I do, George? Which way do I go? Which way do I go? I don't know. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit there and go, we treat them like every other customer, right? We treat them and we go, hey, Mr. Customer, how about got that car? What car? Because we end up looking like that dealer. Now, let me tell you this, is that we sit there, and let's say that customer put in there that they're interested in an LS. They went through all the rigmarole to say I'm interested in an LS 3, I want the leather, I want the bucket seats, I want the DVD player, I want XYZ. And then all we get is the LS. We send them a basic LS, and they're going, hey, you're not listening to me. You don't hear me. Or vice versa. They put the cheap one in, and we give them a $60,000 Suburban. We look like that dealer, okay? Also, we don't set expectations. I'm going to talk about that here in just a second, how to set those expectations. The shopping experience ends up sucking It is horrible. Why? Because remember, we don't get all the information from the customer many times. On second-party leads, on autotradercars.com, where they're providing our inventory out there, vehicles, folks like that, maybe that's not the case. They're saying I'm interested in stock number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? But they might not realize what all the boxes it has on there. They don't understand them. They might not. But we got to learn how to set those expectations, okay? And then we all look the same. I want to challenge you guys. There's quite a few folks in this webinar. Obviously, last of the month, you want to be better. You're taking a few minutes of your time to be better. So I'm going to challenge you guys to be different. It's not easy. It's time-consuming. It can be. But we have to be different. Because to go from good to great, that'll add. To go from a 15% closing ratio to a 20% closing ratio, and yes, you can close at 20%. If you're at 12, we got to work on that. If you're at 14, we got to work on that. We can be at 20%. I never thought it was capable. I thought it was crazy. But if we put proper processes in place, we can, okay? So I'm not going to give you a full roadmap, but we have the capability. We have CRMs, ILMs that can handle this process. We have templates out the wazoo, right? So the next question I want to ask everyone on the call is, do we have separate processes in your CRM or ILM for second and third party leads? That's what I want to know. Do we have anything currently in your system that we follow a different process if it comes from a second and third party lead?
Well, you heard the man. We need you to step on up and let us know. Do you have a separate process in your CRM or your ILM for second and third party leads? Please select one of the following answers. Yes, my CRM is fully optimized. Yes, but we have to do it manually. Kinda, but it's not consistent. Not everyone in the dealership does it. Every once in a while we might do it. Or is it no, my CRM or ILM can't do that? Or no, I didn't know I needed to do that. I didn't know that second and third party leads needed a completely separate process than other leads. So once we get a majority of the votes, we're going to close the poll and share the results. And people are still voting, and we do appreciate your votes. Thank you so much. And by the way, I want to let you know, Mark, that when you were telling people, hey, there is a way to go, from a 14% closing ratio to a 20%, we had a few people like Katie who wrote in and she said, teach me, how, tell me. Okay, so they're waiting for it.
Wonderful. Well, that's ultimately, I think, the next slide we're going to get into. We're going to be talking about expectations, and it's kind of that dare to be different. It's talking about setting these expectations, and when we learn how to set expectations and communicate with the customer, that's where because that extra percent, that extra 2%, 4%, it's so difficult to do, and it takes hard work, dedication, and a consistent inspection, monitoring. You have to, and so we're going to be talking about it here in just a second.
Well, just so you know, everyone, I did close the poll. I shared the results, so the results are on your screen right now. 26% of today's audience said kinda, but it's not consistent. Very interesting. 24% of today's audience said yes, that their CRM is handling that for them. It's fully optimized. 22% said yes, but they have to do it manually. 21% of today's audience said they didn't know they needed to do that. Now that's interesting. And 7% of today's audience said no, my CRM or my ILM just can't handle that kind of process. So, Mark, did you get all that? You got all that?
I did. And what's really cool is I think where you got the yes that it's going to rock it is those folks are probably doing it. So because the CRM can force it. The kinda, that's, it's 25%, 26% are doing that. Yeah. 22% are doing it manually.
Yes.
And 21, and 28% aren't doing it.
Well,
we got a pretty good split there.
Yeah, 22% are doing it manually, but then there's an additional 7%. So really it's 29% have CRMs that don't fit what they need it to do, because 7% says that their CRM just doesn't do that,
Right.
So.
It's so, There are a lot of CRMs. I work with virtually every CRM that's out there, and you can do this. You can do it manually, okay? You got to set a process up in there. Obviously, if your CRM LM can handle it, that's easy. If you don't, what we need to do is create some separate templates. We need to be able to say if it comes from a black book, a trade evaluator, you need to be able to speak to their trade. If it's coming from a third-party lead, right, we need to say something a little different like that. Because obviously they're not submitting it through Helix.com. They're not. Maybe, but they're submitting it through usedcars.com or someone else, right?
Right.
And so we need to address that, okay? And so what we got to do, going back to this, we got to set the expectations. What? What does that mean? Any relationship I've ever dealt with, whether it's my fiance, my bride-to-be, whether it's my family, my friends, and my coworkers, and ultimately my customers, I've learned problems arise when there's expectations or really unmet expectations, and things aren't clearly communicated, okay? So here's a couple of sticking points that we need to do, some stuff you can put in place to help you maximize those second and third-party leads. This is pretty simple. You have to always call before you click. That's simple. I think most folks would agree with that. People buy cars from people they know and trust. If you're clicking and submitting your pricing template or your first response, I'm not talking about auto response. I'm talking about a personal email. We have to call if we can. Obviously, we don't have some phone numbers, right, when we do that, okay? But during that call, we're investigating, and doing some more investigating. We're figuring out what they want. Mark, what about if I go to voicemail? All right? Well, that's easy. We let the customer know the info that we received, and we explain to the customer what info that we're going to be sending over, and then we request them to contact you if it's not correct. I'm going to show you a couple of templates in here in a second that's going to address all these things. But I want to let you guys know that the customers ultimately, they want to be heard. People want to understand that they're being listened to. We are in a society through social media that they can filter out so much. I don't want to hear you. I can defriend you. I can click off you. I can DVR you. I can skip through the commercials, all that fun stuff, right? And so what ends up happening, so the question is, how do you get to that 14 to 20%? This is how you can maximize your leads. When that lead comes over, we call the customer. Let's just say we get a voicemail. What we ultimately need to tell on the voicemail is, hey, Eliana, this is Mark over here at ABC Motors. We received your vehicle purchase request on a new LS Suburban. Unfortunately, Eliana, it didn't tell me exactly what you're looking for. There's so many options. I got over 50 in stock right now. I'm going to go ahead and send you over some information to you, Eliana, that's going to have a couple options for you. If that's not exactly what you're looking for, please let me know, and I'll get that over to you. All right? And you continue on to your whole closing on that template or the voicemail, and even when you talk to them, because we sometimes forget how the customers got to us. We just see this at LS, 4x2. That's what I'm going to send them, right? So we send them our cheapest, we send them whatever. We want to send them options. If you're not sending 2 to 3 or 4 options for them to look at, we're missing the boat. 82% of customers today are going to buy something differently than they originally inquired on. They inquired on the LS Suburban, the Honda LX, the Toyota Tundra Crewmax, 2-wheel drive. Well, by golly, how many things can I get on there? How many options can I get? So we have to set those expectations. As soon as I hang up that phone, I'm sending them an email, okay? I'm sending them an email, and this is kind of a basic starting off that will be that we send virtually every customer we use, or we have a variation of clients we use at PCG. It's very similar. Don't worry about taking screenshots, folks. You will get this via a PDF if you want the whole deck, slide deck. So don't worry about taking screenshots or scribbling all this template down. But basically, we say, hello, Eliana. Thank you so much for considering ABC Motors. I've received your vehicle purchase request on a Chevy Silverado. You'll notice there real quick, I do not have a year on there. Why? Okay, most folks right now don't have any 12s, 2012s. The 13s are already in there. You might have some that third parties, many a times, they'll just send over their links on a new car, but it comes over as a 12. Well, if my autofill fields and my CRM is going to put the year in there, I'm not going to think about it. I'm like, hey, I got a 2012 when really I don't. Small something simple. I learned that actually from my sales guys. We took that out. The vehicle you're looking for is available and for sale, right? And in the red box, you sit there. This is where we're relevant. We ask questions. You set expectations. You let the customer know what we received. And ultimately there, we ask a question, right? This template that we use goes on and on and on because we have some buying examples and or some why buys in there. But we say we introduce ourselves. We tell the customer we have the car, or we sit there and say, hey, I don't exactly know what you want. Boom, here you go. Because again, people want to be heard. They're submitting information because they're interested. Hey, I'm interested. These processes that I'm talking about helped the Jerry Durant Auto Group be one of the #1 GM dealerships in the country for the GM party leads, because GM can track all that fun stuff and see if Joe Smith submitted and Joe Smith bought a car. These are basic, simple rules. And so if we just go through the template of the process, we don't spend a little extra time to ask them, hey, are you looking for the LS1, LS2? You want the sunroof? You want the bows? Do you want leather? Do you want cloth? What colors do you want? I'm going to send them a black one and they wanted a white one. They're not listening. In their mind, perception is reality. They submitted through their third-party lead provider. And they went through all this stuff that says, hey, I'm interested in, they built the car. And you look for, and you just go to a third-party lead provider, and type in Chevrolet sale or Honda sale in your location. You're going to see these, Chevrolet clearance. They're going to go through all this stuff. And customers build these cars, and all we get is some basic information sometimes, okay? And so what we do is we ask them, and right here in that first sentence, these first 2-3 sentences, we ask them personal questions. A template can't be in here. Where I've seen folks go from the 10 to 12 to 15 to 20% closing ratio is this first sentence, these first paragraphs, because they're going to be relevant. People understand, the customers understand you're hearing them. That's the thing. We got to be different, okay? And what about the dealer that's going to quote, no destination fee, no XYZ? You know what? Put that in there. This includes destination fees. Mine says pricing is as follows. It includes all applicable rebates. However, you may qualify for additional incentives from the manufacturer. We have shady car dealers out there. Be ethical. Be upfront, okay? Does this make sense? I'm hoping it does, because this is so huge and so relevant. Because remember, people want to be heard. If they're not being heard, they're going to turn you off. I do not want to. People don't want to go through BS. People hate buying cars because car dealers do not hear them. If we hear them, we give them relevant information, they will respond. This first response is so crucial. We can't send them a basic email and just says, hey, what questions do you have? No. You can have that template, but we've got to personalize it. You've got to spend the extra few minutes. So important. This first day is so crucial, and I'm going to do another template here in just a second. It's going to help you connect with some more customers later on that day. So we called, we set expectations, we left a message. Ultimately, obviously, we know we got to get to them quick. We got to them quick. We got to as soon as I hang up that phone, I'm sending that email, okay? I'm sending something similar to this right here. I got it. It's for sale. But wait, what I have for sale is this. What I received was this. Are you looking for anything extra? What options do you want? Are you considering anything else? What colors do you want? Folks, if we're not doing this, you're missing the boat. The question again, how do I get from 14 to 20%? This will help you. This not get you from maybe to 14, 20%, but it's going to help you get connection. It's all about engagement. Templates are made to create engagement. Once engagement happens, then we sell. If we can engage more and we get two-way communication back and forth to us, that's when we work our magic, because people buy cars from people they know and trust. Next up, I call this and I reach out to Elise Kephart. I think she's going to be doing a webinar with you, Elise, here pretty soon.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I love Elise. I love Elise. Yeah, she'll be on the first Thursday in March. So you might want to put that down on your calendar. She's a great speaker, had her once on, fantastic, awesome. So you've named this the Elise effect. Does she know about this?
I call it, she does know about this. It's called the Elise effect. What I mean by that is we all talked about video and we talked about everything else, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, she's been a loud voice in this industry about video. She was working for Sunset, I think it's Sunset Honda. She left, worked for a vendor. Life happened. She went back, is helping. Went back, I think her first month back. Again, no funnel, no repeats and referrals, or she might have had maybe one or two, but I think she sold 20-plus cars her first month back. And how she did it is through her process of videos. So it's great if you're not going to be signed up where you need to. But ultimately, we're doing this now, and you don't necessarily you got to get the basics down first. Once your processes are set, and you're using, you got some strong processes, and you're walking or jogging, this is how you run. I just did this yesterday in a car dealership. Went and spent, I think, $30 using the Logitech webcam. Throw it up on your screen. It works with any computer. $30. Open what you do. You send a personalized video. Okay? And why is that so important? Why is that so important? Because, again, people buy cars from people they know and they trust. Why? Because you create an emotional connection with this person. When you're maybe through your phone, maybe you can't really get that. But when they see you, they see that you're not some slick wheelie. You see you're not some shady car guy. And you talk to them. And again, here, the voicemail, this is basically a video voicemail. And you say something similar. Hey, Eliana, this is Marc McGurren at ABC Motors.
Hi, how are you, Mark?
Say thank you. I'm fantastic. And so I've received a vehicle purchase request on XYZ. In this email, you'll see that I've included a couple options for you. I want to make sure that's exactly what you're looking for, right? You're spending that extra time. Go spend the $30. Go spend that, and what you do, you throw it up on YouTube. You drop in the link in there. They go see it. You can see if they viewed it. They can't see if they don't. What we recommend is you do an unlisted account, or you make the video unlisted, meaning that only people with that URL can see it. Some folks might say you want to optimize it, you want to do XYZ. It's neither here nor there. Ultimately, you want to do the video. That video is going to create engagement. Again, it's all about engagement, okay? So we have to make sure that we're creating that engagement, and with the folks, we're connecting with the people. So again, they want to be heard.
Yeah, Mark, I just want to interrupt for one split second. We did have a comment from one of our attendees, Richard. He wanted to know, do you send the video the same day, the first day? Is it in addition to the first, or is it in place of? I want you to know, Richard, that when Elise was here, she gave a great webinar, told you exactly how to do it. In fact, the name of the webinar was How to Make a Great Branding Video in 5 Minutes. So if you want to check that out, she tells you exactly how to do it. And I'm sure it wouldn't be any different than what Mark would say, but she does it in a webinar of her own. Just go to dealeron.com/webinar and go to the archive and find her webinar, which was How to Make a Great Branding Video in 5 Minutes. Perfect answer for you. Okay, Richard? Okay,
Perfect,
please.
Richard. And say what I do in this is I hang up the phone, Richard, and I make the video. And what we're coaching our folks is to make the video, and you put that right underneath this first paragraph, right there. What we're doing, I don't know if you can see my mouse, you can't, but you'd put it right below that first paragraph. And what you would say is, I've included a short personal video for you to see. And you click, and you can see they click on it. And ultimately, what you're doing is you're putting it that first page. Again, because it really does take 5 minutes. Once you get this process down, check out that webinar. She'll show you how to do it exactly. You drop it in there. Again, it's all about the first thing. You've got to do it the first thing. And a generic video is okay, but it's, hey, Richard, this is Mark. I received your vehicle purchase request on X. It's not like, hey, Richard, this is Mark. I'm the security. I'm the best. I'm this. No. We're taking the time. We're being different. A generic one's okay, but being personal takes 5 minutes. And depending on your workload, you can do it, and you just got to be more efficient, okay? So that's the Elise effect. And then from what there, we called, we clicked. 4 to 5 hours later, we then would send what's called, we call a why me email. People buy cars from people they know and they trust. Remember? Okay. So let's say I've never talked to this customer. Even if I did, I'm going to send this one anyway. Because what this basically does is you start off this sentence with, I know it's hard to trust someone, especially when you're buying a car. So I want to take a minute and introduce myself. And in the next 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs, we talk about us. right? We talked about the fact that, to give you an example, I've been in the car business 8 years. I've had many positions. In my free time, or I say I'm about, going to be married soon. I've got 3 kids, and my free time I love to run. I love to mountain bike. I race remote field cars. X, Y, tell them about yourself. Tell them that you're a real person, right? That's what this is about. I want to show you an example. In the end, P.S., please take a look at what others are saying about their time spent with me. This is where your internet reputation comes into play. You can send them to your website. If you have reviews on there, dealerator.com. If you have a great Google review page, send them there, right? So ultimately, and then you close it with a strong line. Like here, if you look here, it says, hundreds of parents trust me day after day to take care of their precious little kids for those 5 years I taught school. Hope you will trust me to help you through this car buying process. Again, this is not going to, we believe in personality selling at PCG. There's 4 different personalities, main personalities. This is not going to connect with all of them, but we'll connect with 50% of the audience traditionally in today's market. Because it's going to connect with people that are more personable, that actually care about that person, okay? So here's one that we have, and it's a little longer, but it's strong. I don't want to sit there and go read it and go through all these skills, but she's a stay-at-home mom. She's got 3 daughters. She's got a toddler. Basically, she worked, she sat there in the 1, 2, 4th paragraph. Before that, I stay-at-home mom 4 years. So know all too well the importance of a good bargain and time restraint. That's huge. You're connecting with the customer. You are sitting there and telling them, I get it. I hear you. I'm just like you. That's what you're trying to do. That's what you're trying to get across. That's ultimately what you're trying to come and let them know you want to connect with customers. So how do we be different? How do we go about the process? Ultimately, we figure out what lead providers we want to use. Okay, figure those out. I recommend trying someone out once. If they fail, they fail, but ultimately you tried it. Worst case scenario is you sell some cars. You tried it out. Okay, we can drop out $1,500 on a radio spot in one day, right? TV, XYZ, try them out. If you're in a smaller market, third-party leads are pretty dang cheap. And understand, if you're a big dealer, small dealer, it doesn't matter. So try someone out. Try something out everyone wants. I believe we're in the car business. We're in the business of merchandising and marketing our vehicles. We need to be where the customers are at. Cars.com and Auto Trader, no matter what they charge, are our friends. Because why? That's where the eyeballs are at. We're getting our cars out there. We have to dare to be different, folks. We have to move that needle from the 14 to the 20%. This is not easy. It does take a little bit more time, right? But we have correct processes. We have to have the right handling. So even if your CRM and ILM does not have that, let's create some templates for that. If it's a Kelly Blue Book lead, have Kelly Blue Book in there. If they address the trade, address their trade, things of that nature. We have to sit there. So back that up with the processes. We call before we click. Send the click with the video. 4 to 5 hours later, send the why in the email, and then we call again. Okay? Some folks don't leave a voicemail on both. You know what? Leave a voicemail on the first one. Okay? We have caller ID. You call and don't leave a message. That's neither here nor there. And at that point, we send the why in the email. And these few steps, and my time's running out, will help you maximize your second and third party leads. I guarantee you, if you take the time to go in and make sure your team's doing it. For the folks, the 50% that were 26% were kinda, 22% were manually. The manually, depending on that, I have a feeling that might be kinda. Okay? Go in and inspect the process. Go in behind them. Force your CRM and ILM to go in, use your BDC director, internet director, whatever the case may be, is to go in 24 hours, go in 36 hours, and go in at 6 days to make sure the process is being completed. I call that injected inspection. Force the system to get you in the tool to look at your folks and coach your folks. At that point, when folks are being watched, know they're being held accountable, they will do the processes. Ultimately, folks, that's how you're going to maximize your second and third party leads. And so here, do we have any questions? Do we have anything that I think we got a few more minutes? I wanted to.
Do we have any questions? Of course we have questions.
Wonderful.
Are you ready for the questions is the question.
Yes.
Okay, well, before we get started on the questions, you had asked our attendees to throw out there maybe a few of the things that they would really like to accomplish. I want to point out 3 of them that came through that I think are very worthwhile. One of them comes from Adam. He says to gain more VDPs. Debbie wrote in to increase web traffic and sales. And, gosh, there was one more. Oh, Jonathan wrote in, I think most dealers want to know how to get beyond even a 7 or 8% closing ratio.
Right.
So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
And hopefully we address that. Hopefully, how to get more VDPs, got to get out there. Your car's got to be merchandised correctly. You got to have good descriptions. Videos will help you there. How to get more web traffic. If you're relevant, you're personal, that's going to drive them. Then what they do, what folks are doing, they're going to Auto Trader, Kelly Blue Book, Auto Trader, all those different places. They find the car, then they really want to know if the car is there. That's what they really want to know. That's what's going to make the phone ring. It's going to make folks show up. That's what's going to make leads come in. Jerry Tebow of Phone Engines says the most asked phone call is, do you have the car? Right?
Yeah.
If we're not merchandising our cars there, we got to have the car, right? So that's how you get the traffic. That's how you merchandise correctly. You make sure your eyeballs are out there. You're in the right places. Again, love them or hate them, and I love them because they're my friend because they help me sell more cars to get more VDPs. These cars.com and Auto Trader. I then get on all the other third-party leads, and I get as many leads as I can as long as it's selling me cars. And ultimately, we put in some processes in place that are relevant, that are simple, that our team can follow. We're personal and relevant. We send the video. We connect with consumers. Once we connect with consumers, we work our magic.
I think that's great. And by the way, I just want to give a shout out to Debbie, who said to increase web traffic and sales. We're always looking to help all people, not just dealer on customers. These webinars are open to everyone, so we're always hopefully hosting webinars that will help you do just that. So you might want to check out our archive section and see if maybe there's another webinar that will hit that. I know that you'll find a ton of them in there in our archive section, but I do want to start getting to these questions from our amazing audience. And Mark, I'm just going to tell you right now, some of them are really tough.
Okay.
All right, but we're gonna start with this one from Dan, and he says, how many different second and third party lead providers is too many for one dealership to handle? Because you really could, you could go hog wild on second and third party lead providers. So,
spend $1 bazillion on them. I think it's ultimately the process. I think, Dan, it's a great question. If you want to shoot me a message later, that's fine. Ultimately, though, it's about, it's going to be about what your team can handle. You don't want to overwhelm them because then you're going to dilute it. Then you're going to be overwhelmed and overworked, and it's not going to be relevant. So I think as long as you have good processes, you can handle it effectively. I think that's the ultimate goal. Get as many as you can. Ultimately, you want to go to your website. Make sure you're doing pay-per-click. Make sure your SEO is strong. At that point, you then start adding the third-party lead providers, and ultimately, if they help you sell cars, keep getting more.
Well, there you have it. Okay, well, Dan, I hope that helped you out. I want to get to Tony's question. He sent this one pretty early on. He says, many manufacturers are providing third-party leads. Do you recommend buying directly from the thirds, or do you beat the man to the punch? And I swear he wrote it just like that, to beat the man to the punch. So is there a better way, or is there one way better than the other, or it's, 6 of one? What is it? 6 of one, half dozen of another?
So we had my Jerry Durant Auto Group. We were full line GM, so we had Cadillac, Buick, GMC, Chevrolet, 2 Toyotas, and 2 Hondas. So, and I had third-party leads, right? So most lead providers are pretty good with that. What I would recommend is sit there. The man can't get all of them. The man is pretty big, pretty huge, and maybe you get co-op from them. So you know what? If they're going to help you with the deal, get them, right? And then what's going to happen is you let your third-party lead provider ask, go, hey, third-party, Dealers for USA, Automotive, blah, sit there and go, hey, if I get a lead in, the same lead from my manufacturer, will you give me credit for that lead? At that point, most of them are going to say, yeah, that's fine. Because we would get duplicates, and all I would do is submit it to my vendor, that one of the best vendors I had, and said, hey, can I get a new one? And they said, they get a new one. Because they wouldn't give me credit for it, they just give me a new one, because I just want to sell cars, right? So I'd say do both. Because if you have the processes that can handle it, again, you don't want to overwhelm your folks and dilute the process.
Well, thank you so much for that answer, Mark. Tony, I hope that helped you out. Now, this next question comes to us from Jim. He's going to put you on the spot here. He says, what do you consider a good ROI on a vendor?
A good ROI on a vendor. Okay. Is this Jim Bell?
Yes, it is.
Jim Bell, love you, man. Ultimately, I think you don't typically the rule of thumb is you want to be about $20 a lead. It's going to cost you $20 a lead. Obviously, if you break it down by Cars.com and Auto Trader are going to tell you that they are a traffic generator and not a lead provider, I would agree with them. That happened to me at Jerry. That kind of shows that story. But if I'm selling cars and I'm making money and it's not overwhelming me, and it's not taking up too much of my time, dude, if I'm making, hopefully I'm making $2,000 a car. I think we need to make $2,000 a car is what I think we need to be making, if not more, in the internet. I did it. I have dealers doing it all across the country. I'll have to be a little lower depending on the demographic. But if I'm moving metal and I'm making a profit, I think that's what it'll look at. So if I'm making $200 a car, maybe I need to take a little different. $1,000 a car, I think that's going to be a case-by-case basis. If that's my average, $1,000 a car, and I'm overwhelmed. I had a dealership that we worked with that they're getting 1,000 leads a month. Roughly 400 of those leads were coming from True Cars, Ag, USA, all that fun stuff. But check this out. They are only closing 1%. So you do the math, okay? They're getting 400 leads. They're closing 1%. They're going to sell a handful of cars a month. But roughly 40% of their time is doing it, okay? I said cut them. They're like, what? I'm going to cut them because I cut 40% of my leads. Yeah, because you're spending way too much time to close 1%, selling 5 cars a month. That's a big lead source. Yeah, but you're not selling cars from it. So they cut them out. They trusted us at PCG. They said, all right, we're going to trust you. They sold more cars because of it. Why? They were able to spend more time. They're going through the motions so fast on all the other leads that the folks were further down in the buying funnel that they were able to sell more cars, spend more time. So, that's not saying I use TrueCar. I use Ag, USA. I'm not knocking to them. But that dealership itself was on the East Coast. They weren't getting good return on their investment. And really, it was worth time on their investment because with TrueCar in that state they were working on, they didn't have to pay till they sold it. So they're like, man, I got all these leads in the world. Well, yeah, but think about your time investment as well. That's huge as well. So if you're making money, moving metal, and it's not wasting your team's time, sell it. Do it. Own it.
Well, you know what, Mark? You sparked a lot of responses. A lot of people wrote in while you were doing that. First of all, I want to get to Tim. The famous Tim Jennings is on here, and he said a good vendor after you sign is more of a consultant than a salesperson. Tim, no one knows better than you. Thank you, sir, for that.
Yes.
Jim Bell, of course, wrote in and said thank you, but a lot of people had the same question. Mitchell said, how many leads should an internet manager receive per month? Katie, how many leads can one person work? Should they get them to the door and turn them over to sales or work the lead all the way through? And Richard, how many leads would you recommend per PDC rep per month? Appointment setting, no selling. I mean, everyone has the same question, basically. How many leads is too much before you have a diminishing, return?
Yeah. It's your setup. Maybe we can talk about that in a new webinar coming up. But ultimately, I think it's what's the current lead source? Because I think if you're cradle to grave, what we're finding out throughout what we're seeing is working, to get that 20%, people can't be overworked. If they're overworked, then they're greeting the customer, they're selling the car, they're setting the appointment, doing all that fun stuff. You know what? I'm finding a sweet spot with dealers between 50 and 80. Depends on the people. I had a guy that I could give no more than 70 leads, and he would sell 20%, maybe not more. He had lots of repeats and referrals, though. Okay, so because you want them to tap into their own resources. It's cradle to grave, no more than 80, because they've got to spend the time. They're setting appointments. They're being with the folks. Selling cars takes time. Okay, BDC, okay, are they just doing sales? It's a matter of, are they doing service? Are they doing equity mining? Are they fielding incoming phone calls? That's going to play how much workload do they have. But I think a sweet spot, a good average to look at, is going to be between the 120 to 150. Because even though they're just setting appointments, right, they still got to follow up. They still got to go through the processes. They still got to connect with the customer. If we're doing the video, it's going to take up 5 more minutes. I mean, you start doing the math on that, right? But what if they're taking incoming phone calls? What if they're doing equity mining? What if they're doing service appointments? That plays in a huge factor that's going into it. So, but a good rule of thumb is in that once you start capping that over the 150 mark, then you have, and that also considers what's your sales process. How long are you following up? Do you have automated follow-up, which I do not recommend. I do not like any automated emails except an auto-response. I'm not pro-auto-response or against auto-response. But it's what's out there. It's because we have to be personal and relevant. We practice that we do all manual follow-up with our PCG clients. Not all of which have a couple folks that are using some lead nurturing software like Ava and others. That might, again, it's the process. If it's a 90-day process that they're following up manually, guys, if they're doing 150, that means they're roughly going to be following up with 400 plus leads every month. That's a lot of freaking work, right? And calls and emails and everything else. So if you're cracking that 150 and you're over 200, be careful, because if you're going to get saturated to that 12%, 8% closing ratio, and then do the math. I mean, if you can get to that 20%, heck, go another 3% to where you're at. Do the math on that.
So
that might be pay for.
Oh, I was going to say, do you work it backwards? Do you see how many people you have and try and get the amount of leads that those people can handle?
I think that's a great way. And then you got to look at, again, what else they're handling. If it's just appointment setters, it's only digital sales, then let's just talk that way, because I see a lot of BDCs set up that way, because that's all they're doing is sales. They're not doing service. That 150 mark is probably pretty safe. I got dealerships right now. I was just at yesterday. They're going to crack 180. They're overworked. They're still doing great, but I travel a lot, and right now I'm traveling a ton. There's always so much. It's not sustainable. Certain things aren't sustainable. Can it work for a while? They're going to get burnt out. They're going to start going through the motions. Keep everyone on point month in and month out is very difficult to do.
Yeah. Mitchell followed up on this whole conversation, and he says, we follow up on 120 a day, but how many phone calls can an internet manager make per day and still be productive?
I got a dealership in Texas here that's doing 100. Each BDC agent is required to do 100 outbound phone calls a day. They're handling, no lie. They are making that. But if you want to be in the department, it's 100 outbound phone calls a day. But they're doing everything. They have call lists. They don't have to work a ton. The CRM that they're using is helping them out on doing that, so they're as efficient as possible. But that's the goal. If you're not doing 100 phone calls a day, okay, maybe at 80. But you know what? You're doing it. So it's the workload that's there. So you've got to be efficient. And the cool thing with what they do, Mitchell, is they only work 6-hour shifts. And that's what they're doing. And so they when they're there, they are working their tails off, and they're selling a ton of cars.
Oh, and Mitchell corrected me. He didn't say they were doing 120 days. He said that they follow up on each lead for 120 days.
Oh,
that's a long time.
Yeah. That's great. I think that's phenomenal. So I think 90 days is great.
120 is better.
Yep.
Okay, well, you know what? It is past the top of the hour. I hope you can stick around.
Yep.
We have some great questions from our audience I'd love to get to. Are you okay, Mark?
I'm great.
Okay, let's go on to this one. Mitchell says thank you, by the way. Tony wrote in, when trying to break down an invoice, cars and Auto Trader, How did you determine the expense percentage of new versus used?
Based on from cars.com, so I don't understand the question, that you can clarify it, is if you got a bill of $5,000, right? Like, how do you allocate that to the used car department or the new car department? Is that kind of what you're understanding, Eliana?
I think when you get the invoice, I think what he's saying is when you get the invoice from Cars or Auto Trader, how do you, allocate it so that the expenses that you're paying for are new car versus used car? Because, you don't want it all coming out of the used car department if it's really a new car.
Why not? They make all the money. They're the car department. That's what I did.
Is that what you did? So accuracy was not really an issue.
Oh, what is it, no, I think you look at, I think AutoTraderCars.com will break it down. I know Auto Trader does. You have a new car lead VDP, but if it's not going to break it down, I think because they're different packages, right? Talk to them. Honestly, I think we ended up breaking it 50-50 just to make the used car manager feel loved, but it's all coming out of the same pocket. But going back to metrics, and if you're making the money in your VDPs, see how much traffic you're getting. I think a good way is how many new VDPs you're getting and how many used car VDPs you're getting. What's your percentage? And I think that'd probably be a good way to do it. So
Okay.
You're not going to be able to necessarily track leads and whatnot because that's not a relevant indicator. I think VDPs are better. Let me back that up. It is an indicator. The most relevant and the most accurate is through VDPs.
I mean, I imagine somebody could, in essence, send in a lead from, let's say, Cars.com for a used car and then wind up buying a new car instead.
Mm-hmm.
That's entirely not out of the realm of possibility, so I can understand how difficult it would be to track that. Okay, Chip is going to put you on the line now. Chip wrote in.
Come on.
Bring it. Chip wrote in, the most important thing to do is to make sure a person is handling the lead and not a system. If you read each lead before answering, why would you need a different process for second and third party leads? Also, if the client wanted to talk to you, wouldn't they have called in the first place? If I flew in on a plane, why should I want to go home in a bus?
Okay. So the first order question is the system's not going to sell a car, we're going to do that. Okay, yes.
Basically, why do you need a different process for second and third party leads?
Your process, your follow-up process long-term is going to be virtually identical. It's that first connection that's there, and so they reach out to you, and people want to be heard, okay? So the process is not necessarily say if they came from Auto. I think it's great if you could say, hey, I see you submitted your vehicle purchase request on Auto. Thank you so much, right? Again, it's all about letting them know that we hear them. We understand them. We understand what they're looking for. And in that process, yes, by God, I hope they are reading it. I hope my team is reading it. But the process then there is going to be we're understanding where they're coming from. So the actual days when I call, days on email, and the templates that we're going to use in that process, on day 2 and on, could be virtually identical, unless it's a trader, like it's an Auto Trader Tim, a Trader Marketplace, or Kelly Blue Book, or Black Book, or a Trade Evaluator. You have to have it in the process because it's a warmer lead. We're asking them, you're addressing their trade because that's what they came in and said. Hey, think of the old Foursquare ways of working a deal on a Foursquare. You find out what their hot button was. Their hot button, at least an important one enough to submit their information, was a trade evaluator. Someone addressed it. That's their hot button. And they say, I'm interested in this, XYZ, blah, blah, blah. I'm still going to give them information on the car, but I'm going to put the emphasis on their trade. So, why? Ultimately, we want to make sure they hear us, or that we hear them, and that we're following up, and that we know where they came from, and that they understand that we did not get all the information that's there, or maybe we didn't. Okay, or what information we do have. And as far as they came in on a bus and leaving a train or whatever, do I call them? Why call them? They gave me their phone number, right? People buy cars from people they know and trust, right? And If customers said, don't email me or don't call me, again, this is probably up for debate, I would call the customer. And people might go, what? Ultimately, they sit there and they say, no. The upside is, I'll always look at the upside and the downside. You know, the upside is connect with the customer. The downside is they might say, jerk. But think about this, if we're giving them relevant information, I'm trying to get to that customer what they want. When I do talk to them, I want to make sure, what I'm doing, I'm not going, if it could, would you? I'm not doing a shady car guy stuff. I'm saying, hey, I want to make sure I get you the correct information. You know, very rarely have we got folks that are saying, you suck, you jerk, I hate you car dealer folks, right? But if I approach it in such a way where I call it being pleasantly persistent, and I'm giving them relevant information, I'm letting them know that, hey, I didn't get all the information, or I want to make sure I'm getting the right information, they're more apt to do it. You know what, the likelihood that I'm going to tick people off is a lot less than it is. People will buy cars simply they know and trust. If I can connect with the customer, I'm going to connect with the customer. Some people might disagree with that on calling. You know what? I want to sell a car. And my personality and the people we deal with sells cars,
right.
not an email.
Right.
And so that's why I believe that they can hear my voice. That's why we do the video. Then they can see my face. They can see my bald face and my head.
It's not so bad looking.
And they see that. And you know what? It breaks down walls. And it's all about breaking down those walls and bringing those gloves down.
Right.
So that's why I believe in doing that.
Well, Chip wrote back in. He said GM slams a dealer for not answering the client's questions in their first response. That's why we teach them to read every lead and not have small talk in the initial reply. When it comes to calling people, now, I don't know if this is what you teach, but I've always heard, and I don't know if it's right or not, you know, everyone has their opinion, but I've always heard the email sells the phone call, and then the phone call sells the appointment, and then, you know, the rest goes from there. So if they give you a number, why wouldn't you use it? I totally understand that, you know, but Chip says that he lost sales making that call, and Kim says that it's funny, so many say don't call me, but they put the number on the form. So then you're kind of like, what are you doing, you know? I think if they give you a number, that's an invitation to call. Why else would they put the number on there?
Sometimes, well, I would say to address that, sometimes it's required. And then, but even still, we still get dummy phone numbers all the time, 555, 555, 555, right? We're going to get those. So, could you lose a sale here and there? You know, I think, again, you look at the pros and the cons. If you guys have found and your dealership has found that you're losing sales, then don't do it. I firmly believe to do it. From all of my experience, I don't see too many people saying, do not call. The percentage of the folks that are saying that is very slim. So if that's the case and that's the philosophy of your dealership, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, if they're putting the number down because it's a required thing on the form, well, then I could see. Yeah. Okay, let's go to this next question. We have some great questions coming in. They are not stopping, Mark. So, okay, next question is John. He says, can you please tell us what you saw on close rate increase from using the video emails? So do you think the close rate is higher with video emails? Because I'll tell you, I remember Elise saying definitely, and it's a lot easier. Because you have to remember, Elise, she works 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. That's it. And the girl closes 20 to 32 cars a month without, I mean, she tries really hard, don't get me wrong, but I mean, she's not working those crazy, ridiculous hours like some other people are doing to make those numbers. She easily closes 20 to 30 cars a month, 9 to 5, you know, so what do you think?
Yes. Do I have case studies and say we were here and they're there? No, I don't have those numbers in front of me. What I do know, the reason for the video is to create engagement. Because if I can get more engagement, I can sell more cars. Templates are made to create engagement. The video is made to create engagement. Ultimately, that's what it's for. The more I can engage with that customer to, like Eliana said, sell the phone call, that's what's going to happen. Okay? You're getting on those walls. I'm looking at two equivalent price quotes that are a couple $100 apart, but Eliana took the time to send me a video, and Joe Schmo just had a basic template. Who am I likely going to call or reply back? Maybe both, but again, it helps that engagement. The engagement rate is ridiculous. Again, I don't have the exact numbers, but ultimately...
No, I don't have the exact numbers either. She might have said it in her webinar, but I can tell you this.
Right.
You see one of her videos, it's next to impossible not to want to call her.
Right.
It's just impossible. You just want to...
Yep.
You just want to do that. Yeah. And John wrote back in, thank you, we get it. It's all about engagement. Yeah, it really is. You're going to, once you start doing it, there won't be any other way that you'd want to do it. You'd want to do it that way. Okay, we have some great questions coming to us. Andrew's question is next. Eliana, no, not that one. I'm sorry, Kim's question is next. We receive double the leads from Cars and Edmunds. Double the leads from Cars and Edmunds. But they receive less leads from Auto Trader, but they close more. Do you know why?
Mm-hmm.
Auto Trader stated because it's more info is on the page of Auto Trader, and folks don't need to send forms as much. But what do you think it is? To her, at her dealership, in her geographic location, she closes way more on Auto Trader. You have any idea why?
Without looking at the processes, and I'm sure the processes are very similar, and what's the demographic, and maybe competition, what's competing, but let's call them apples. Let's just assume apples to apples, same competitors.
She says she's in Michigan. She says she's in the Detroit area.
Let's say, true. Let's say some competitors are not on Cars.com, some folks are on less folks are on Auto Trader because it is more expensive. I think Auto Trader is the bigger of the two. You look at the dollar spend, you look at the company as a whole, they are the bigger of the two. So maybe, I don't have an exact answer, but possibly is that they could be possibly further down the buying cycle. I'm not really sure. So I don't want to speculate. I believe, like I said, I think both are great. Both are going to drive traffic, phone calls, and leads. Why it's closing at a higher rate? Of course, Auto Trader is going to say, hey, we got more information. You know what?
They also said they have less forms, and she's like, well, why would Auto Trader have less forms? I don't know, but it is interesting. To her, it's interesting that they spend more money, and get less, but with Auto Trader, it works out for them. You know what, Kim? That's great that it's working out for you with Auto Trader. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Rick, of course, is going to put you on the spot, and he says, who do you consider to be the best third-party provider?
The one that helps you sell cars. I'm not dodging that one, and that's why I said you always try someone out once, because I virtually tried all of them, and typically you can get a concession, especially if they're new, trying to get in the game, whatever. Hey, give me, instead of $10, $20 a lead, I give you $10 a lead. Whatever they do, they'll give you concession depending on your state laws and whatnot. There's certain things they can and can't do, but try them out, and if they don't sell you cars, dump them. But give them 60 days, right? Because usually there's a 30-day out. She trumps 30 days out, and what you do is put in your 30 days. Ultimately, what they'll do is it's like a relationship. You're going to put your best foot forward at the beginning. If they're not going to do it, it's not going to help you sell cars in the first 60 days. Dump them. You're out. Couple bucks.
And customer service goes with that, and Kim said, and get more training too. Yeah, so but I agree. You never know what might work. I remember there was a dealer that I was talking to, and he said just changing their subject line on their email when they would write back to people, just that made a 30% difference in appointments. So you never know what's going to work. Try it. Couldn't hurt.
Yep.
Or could it hurt? I have no idea. Okay, let's get to this next question. Oh my gosh, we have so many good questions. Let's go with John's. What is the acceptable amount of leads that are returned to a provider each month? Currently, I have 2 providers, and one of them I seem to return about 40% of the leads, and the other one hovering around 30%. But is that too many, bad leads that are coming out of one provider? What do you think?
That sounds like it could be bad. I mean, if it's got 40%, as long as they're giving you a return on it, were they bad because it's duplicate, bad because they're not getting, it's bad information. I know Helix has, if they don't contact you, there's no contact, you can flip it to them. Their team will try to connect with them. If they don't, they'll get you back the lead.
I say if they're giving you the money back, then it's kind of like no harm, no foul, right? No?
Yeah, but in his defense, I'll say, well, now I'm sending those leads, and it's a kind of slippery slope, because then the folks are like, shit, is this a good lead, bad lead? I don't know. Then your team gets conditioned, and you start pre-qualifying the lead, not the customer, but the lead. You know, it's going to be a bum lead. So, you know, yeah, that's tough.
I lost your PowerPoint, Mark. Just so you know, I lost your PowerPoint.
Oh,
not showing.
Okay.
But yeah, we still have a lot of people on the line. I do want to get to a few more of these questions. But John, if you have a follow-up question, please write on in. I want to get to this one from Mark. He says, third party, especially Auto Trader, can be really rough for us because my dealership is small and we don't have a lot of dough to throw at it, where the bigger dealerships are flooding the listings and buying their way into the first page. We're not able to throw enough money at it to be really competitive. And right now, we seem to be spending too much per lead for too few leads to get a good ROI.
Okay.
What kind of suggestions do you have for our dear friend Mark, who, by the way, spells his name the same way you do?
Awesome. Good name, M-A-R-C. Way to rock it. No, absolutely phenomenal question. You know what? Because Auto Trader is kind of a pay-to-play. You want to be at the top, you got to pay more. You want the core, premium plus, max, you know, platinum, diamond crusted, silver lining, you know, whatever the case is. So that is difficult. I deal with some small dealerships, and they don't have that money. And I think you just have to sit there and realize that you're going to have less DDPs. You're going to have it. But if that's the case, possibly an option, I don't know if you've done it, is, you know, you're not going to get, again, I would say that Auto Trader allowed us to, our traffic dropped, the phone calls dropped, a lot of stuff dropped, our website dropped. That's a tough one, man. You could possibly pull the plug on them and see what happens to save you a couple bucks. Because again, don't just look at AutoTraderCars.com and these folks as lead providers. That's what I did. I'm only spending a lot of money. I mean, I was in a major metro area, and it's not cheap in the rural. It's pretty cheap, a lot cheaper than major metros. And so I pulled the plug and it cranked it, and I came back groveling back, because that's when I realized they are driving traffic to the website and to my dealership and phone calls and not just from Auto Trader that's trackable. Like, everything dropped. It was like we just turned off the faucet. It was crazy, and so I'm not advocating that. You know, Auto Trader reps calling, Mark told him to dump them. Well, not necessarily.
You know, sometimes we get Auto Trader people listening to our webinars. I'm just saying. Right. But I will say this.
That's a tough question, and I think you just have to, again, that's tough. You want to be out there. You want to be the eyeballs are out there. Yeah. And, you know, in the event that you try not to use them and there's not an absolute decrease, I think that's when you do have to look at your ROIs. Is it worth the money to do it? And and I think the good news is we can track it. And what you do with that, Mark, is watch your web traffic, and you obviously look at your referral sources, you look at your phone calls. I don't know what your website provider and all that fun stuff you can use, but watch your VDPs on your website too. If that's what you so choose to do, what you do when you do that, watch your VDPs on your website, watch your phone calls on your website, and if there's a correlation of when you pull the plug and it dips on your website, then it's not just about Auto Trader, because Auto Trader will drive traffic to your website, and they might not go directly to that or go, I'm going to click on the link to the website. They're going to open up a new browser and search for you. So it's not just look at your referral sources. That's an easy one to look at. But people they're not necessarily like us, where we're going to know where to click and we'll know how to do stuff. They'll open up a new browser. They'll Google your name, you know, or Bing it or whatever, and then they're going to find you. So watch that if you do that. That's a tough one. I think you just have to do some A/B testing and see what happens.
little bit of finagling. And I do want to point out to Mark, we had some really active attendees today who are writing and giving suggestions. Kim, for instance, she wrote in, do surveys, do those for the walk-ins. Many of those don't get tracked. We're doing that now, and it's working for her. And Chip wrote in, and he says he's an Auto Trader customer, and he's recommending that you negotiate your package based upon cost of VDP, not leads. And yes, they will listen. So a couple of different, actually a few different things that you could try, Mark. I wish you the best of luck. Hopefully some of those helped. Let's get to this next question. Megan, you have been so patient. She wrote in a few good questions, and I'm finally getting to her. Megan, this one's for you. She says, should there be a different closing percentage for new cars versus used cars?
Good question. I think typically, yeah, your used cars should probably close at a higher rate. Depending on,
yeah.
They're going to be different. They're going to be different for each dealership and your overall success. But ultimately, what you'll look at is how much you're selling in relation to the dealership. Dealers selling 100 cars, you sell new cars of 60, 40%, and 40, or 60 new, 40 used. So you get a 60-40 split in your department. The ECR in that department should be split virtually equally. So, but to answer the direct question, it should be higher. How much higher? I think that's going to be, you know, each dealership is going to be different, but it is going to close at a higher rate because you're on a unique vehicle.
I think so too. I mean, I think people who want a new car, I think the research shows, you know, they won't drive. They'll drive, what, 20, 25 miles for a new car? But boy, oh boy, somebody will drive 300 miles to get the exact used cars that they want.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
So you definitely have a niche in there. Okay, let's go to Megan's second question. She says, what are your feelings about on-hours autoresponders?
Great question. I said earlier, I'm not pro or con autoresponder. This is what I'd say to that. I would be a pro for it when you need it if your response time is 30 minutes or greater in hours. Most CRMs, I think almost all CRMs can track in hours response times. If it's less than that, ultimately, I'm shooting for 5 minutes. Realistically, it's going to land in 10 to 15, but that's the goal is 5. You don't need it. And if you do have one to address that, it's short and sweet. The one we use that we recommend folks is, you know, thank you so much for your vehicle purchase request. Someone will be contacting you shortly. And we literally, there's no header, there's no fancy stuff. It's literally like, hello, Eliana, thank you so much for the vehicle purchase request. Someone will be contacting you shortly. And then literally, what we, again, templates need to have engagement. We ask them, what's the best number to reach you at? Work, still at home. Sincerely, Marc McGurren, ABC Motors, my website and phone number. Like no fancy stuff, no nothing, because it looks more personal. It doesn't look like it's an auto response. And then if your CRM can delay it, you don't want to send it immediately. Some CRMs have to be sent immediately. So if you can delay it roughly 4 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, that's great, because then it doesn't look like an auto response. It looks like it's coming from someone else. And you create that engagement, and you go from there. So if you're able to get, if your team is getting to them fast, don't do it. You don't need it because you're getting a personal, you're getting a personal response to them within 15 minutes, right?
Right.
Again, you don't need it. So.
Well, I hope that helped you out, Megan. And we had a follow-up question about that from John. He says, Mark, what happens to your close rate if response is over 30 minutes or even an hour?
I don't have statistics, but I do know when I was with GM, and when they had their huge push on killing the clock, and they trained their dealers to kill the clock rather than actually get to the customer's relevant and personal information. Their statistic was if you got to them, let's say your closing rate's 10%, right? If you got to the customer in less than an hour, you would increase your closing percentage by 50%. So you go another 5 points up if your closing rate was 10%. So that's the statistics from General Motors. They do have good statistics because they track everything, and that's through GM leads. So I would probably agree with that because they're moving on to the next guy if they don't hear from you. We are in a society where we want information now. If I don't get it, if my website's taking 5 seconds, I'm out. I'm done. It's done loading, And so that's the same thing can happen. If they don't get the information immediately, they're going on to your competitor because they're not listening, they don't care, they don't have the ability to contact me professionally and effectively online, so I'm out. I'm going to competitor.
Yeah, John wrote in, he said, great, thank you for sharing. Okay, let's get to this next question. I'm going to keep going with the questions. I appreciate everyone hanging on. Great information, Mark. So we just have a handful more of questions to go. But I thank you so much for hanging on. Eric has a great question. He says, what is your take on aggregated leads? I refuse to buy leads from a vendor that says I can sell you X amount of leads for a month. What do they do with the other leads they have? Wait until next month?
Right. Great question. Again, I would...
You're an all-lead lover. Is that what I'm hearing from you, Mark? You love leads from anywhere, if you can work them.
I'm an all-lead lover that helps me sell cars. Okay, so ultimately, remember, this little guy right here, I love my vendor if they help me sell cars. Regardless if it is aggregated or not, I think that's your personal bias. They're going to challenge you in your thinking to go, I don't like it either, right? I don't like it either. They're going to sell it to my competitor, X, Y, Z, blah, 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 all that fun stuff, right? But if they're going to help me sell cars, why not, right? Because they, there's only a certain amount they can give you because where they're buying them from. I was in a major DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth, major metro area. I could get all the leads I wanted. Doesn't mean I could sell all of them, but they'd give me them. They could increase my radius. They can do all that fun stuff. What you could do is fine-tune it. And I know dealers can do it. I'm pretty sure Auto USA can do it. All the big ones can do by zip code, do different areas. You know what? And at that point, get as many as you can from your local PMA or that's relevant. Don't be careful on those third-party leads not to go too far out because then, again, you're competing with your closing rate's going to be pretty low because other dealers are going to get that are 15 minutes from you. You're an hour away from them. Your close rate's going to be lower because ultimately, we're getting the pricing game. You want to be close to. You don't want to go too far. So I would answer that question. I'm an all-lead lover if it helps you sell cars. Help me sell cars? By golly, I'm your buddy.
And I don't think we know what they do with the leads that they don't sell you. I have no idea, Eric.
Right.
but give it a shot. You never know. It might turn out to be a love affair. You're gonna have a great. And
exactly.
Before I get to the rest of these questions, I should have given more props to the dealership people, the attendees who are helping the other attendees. I think it's great. Dealership people helping dealership people. Love the suggestions you're sharing with everyone. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure the people who are asking for the help appreciate it as well. Okay, next question comes from Adam. He is pulling no punches. He says, do you, Marc McGurren, have a favorite CRM company?
Wow.
Oh, I told you, my peoples, they want the straight skinny. So
I'll give you the politically correct answer. Is the best CRM is the one. The best CRM is the one you use. It really is. There are CRMs out there. What I would look at that is you want to look at some for support. As a vendor-neutral person, I can't sit there and go, I like this folks and don't like this one. And I mean that there are dealerships that I work with that I hate their CRM. Like, it is cumbersome, it's difficult to use, but they're in a long-term contract. Okay, so we make it work. So what I would do to, I'm gonna dodge and weave on that one, and I'm doing it on purpose because throw my personal biases out. Again, I've learned that through my years. Is that ultimately if you can make it fly, and all of them can, they all do the same thing. Is it more cumbersome? Is it not as intuitive as some of the newer ones that have come up with the past few years? Yeah, but it does the things you needed to do. You learn, push them, and I've learned they are your friends. I've learned, and how I'm able to get a lot of things done, is that I literally become someone's friend with my vendor. Like Lynn Critcher, CEO of eCarList, got bought out by DealerTrack. I hung out with them. We had beers together. We went out at conferences, had dinner together. Like, you know what? When my inventory was down on a Saturday on my website, something happened. Guess who I texted? The CEO of the company. Granted, you can't do that with everybody, and things. And He's like, I got everyone on it, and it was up within 45 minutes. You have to learn, this is a political game. It really is in the vendor world from a dealership. And if you are a sounding board for them, you are, hey, I'm going to help you sell. I'm going to be an advocate for you in essence, because that's, again, it's a review, right? That's why we're all about reputation management. If I can help them sell their product, they are more apt to help me, and I can maybe know higher level people that when I'll go through the problem, I don't abuse that relationships that I have, but I got a lot of things done, and I look at like Jim Bells and the folks you might see that are speakers and whatnot that you go through. I've seen people that know how to market themselves to the vendors. And what happens is that you're doing it for the benefit of, not your own benefit, but for the benefit of the dealership. Because ultimately you can get things that's going to happen. So I know I'm kind of going around it, but I truly believe I've got a CRM that I despise. I mean, not really say that. I dislike very much. It's not easy to use, but it's one of the best dealers I've ever worked with. Went from selling 50 cars a month to 100 and averaging 140 now a month in roughly 6 months. And we used a CRM that I'm not a fan of. But we get the right processes, the right people in place, the right procedures. You can make any of them fly. It might not be as intuitive as you would like.
Okay, I'm just going to let you know, my straight shooting audience did not like your answer. You might have swayed them over with your little massage there at the end, but I got boos, hisses, and a few curse words for you. Okay, so okay, but I will point out. John wrote in. He says Mark is right on. I never met someone who likes their CRM. It's all about learning how to use them, and you know what? It might be right. If you're stuck with a CRM, maybe somebody came before you, made that decision, they try and lock you into a long-term contract. Maybe your best bet is, somebody gave you lemons, you got to make some sweet lemonade out of that. So call your CRM, make some friends, get the training that you need, find out everything that stinking CRM can do for you. Because guaranteed there's something that CRM can do that you just don't know about. Even people who work at the CRM companies, I think sometimes they're like, oh, I didn't know our CRM could do that, so it's always nice to see if you can get that extra training for people and really just try your best, make it work for you. And yes, there are workarounds, right, Mark? Right? There's workarounds.
Yep.
And Kim, yeah, I think you're right, but we won't go there. Okay, let's get to this next question. Next question comes to us from Joshua. He says, great webinar. There are third-party leads that are clear, specific to an in-stock unit, and then there are generic third-party leads that are dressed up to look like a new car price quote request, which are anything but. Any suggestions? This, Joshua, as we have now learned, Mark is an all-lead lover. So let's see how he answers this one.
No, and I think that, we do get those where it does look like a vehicle purchase question. You're going to get some. They're going to say, what? No, not at all. I was kicking tires on the internet. I did X, Y, Z. At that point, you flip it back to your third party and say, this customer's not going to buy it. They'll refund you or at least replace the lead for you. And again, it's all about setting those expectations. So you go back to that when we call a customer, when we reply to the customer, we let them know what we received. And ultimately, that's what we do. We let them know what we received. We set the expectations up of what we received and what we think they're looking for. They can either say, no, get the hell away from me, or no, this is exactly, no, I wanted something else. If it's not a good lead, send it back to your third-party provider. Obviously, that one you pay per lead, obviously, autotraderparties.com. The folks, they're more of a second party where they're advertising your inventory. They're not going to give you any money back because whatever. But the folks you're paying per lead, what you're talking about, that type of lead, if that third-party lead provider is not going to give you your money back or at least replace it, which I'm all about replacing, not just getting their money back, come here to sell cars, you can get a good lead, that's what I want, right? I want a good lead so I can sell a car. So I want to get a good lead and then get an opportunity to sell a car. And so back to that, you got to set the expectations and let the customer know what we received. And if they say, no, I'm not interested in a car, send it back. And if they're saying, sorry, you're stuck with it, then you go, bye-bye. I tried you once. You didn't help me sell a car.
Right. Okay. And you know what? Could you be any more fair than that? I mean, if they really want, they work so hard to get your business, they, really want to keep it, they got to produce. And I totally understand that. Hey, I forget who asked about what they do with the leads you don't buy, what happens to those leads. But Andrew wrote in, and he just thinks he knows exactly what they do. He says that they roll those leads, the leads that they don't sell to you, to the manufacturer who passes them to a dealership. So Andrew seems to know. I just thought I'd pass that on. I forgot who asked that question. I apologize. Okay. And thank you for that, Andrew. Okay, let's get to Mitchell's question. He says, what is your thought on texting? Because we talked a lot about video, phone calls, emails. What do you do about texting?
Great question, because I think that's where a good autoresponder, if you do use autoresponder, you're asking us to sell. I'm okay with texting. The good thing is with a lot of folks have iPhones. We can tell if they got iMessage. You can send them that way. You have to be very careful on that. Obviously, I forget who got what big public company got in trouble for texting, and folks, you have to be very careful on that. It's going to be state and federal laws. If you can, I'll put it that way, if it's able in your state law and the customer's giving you the okay to text them, I love texting. Because right now is that I've got a couple of texts while I'm on the phone. I have not responded to all of them, but I've got a couple of texts. I've got it. I've seen it. I know I can get back to them. Folks are just like us. They're busy, right? So sometimes I can go boom, boom. I can get to them, get the answer to them. So I love the idea. As long as it's okay in your federal and state laws, you're not going to get yourself in a pickle with anything legally. But that's what we're doing today. I mean, we text all day, every day, And so I love that idea if we can, especially in the buying cycle, because then I can help them out and get those folks going. From there. So I love that.
I love texting. I remember, a couple years ago when I was, buying a car, the salesperson texted me to confirm my appointment. I loved that. I thought that was great, and I said, "Yep, I'm going to be there." So for that, I think it's perfect. Oh yeah, show everyone your pretty bald head. Where is that picture? Okay. Okay. So Mitchell, thank you for that question. Let's see. Katie, she says, can we get a copy of more follow-up templates? How long should one follow up with a lead? And do you have a follow-up timeline we could have? Katie's all about the questions.
I love it. Kate, great question. I do 90 days as a pretty good follow-up. I think Mitchell said he does 120. If you're not doing that, you're losing business without a doubt. You're staying in front of them. At that point, they go in a marketing funnel. You're going to market them by specials and whatnot. Yes, I have templates, and by golly, you hire PCG. I'll be more than happy to share those with you. But I will say this. Most of the time when PCG goes into a dealership, we don't have we do have vanilla, not call them vanilla. We have it is a vanilla, like, hey, here's what we recommend. And if I set up a dealership and I was in that department, I instilled a lot of these. At PCG, we come alongside folks and help people partner. And I partner with them and going, hey, what works for your demographic in Michigan, in Texas, in the East Coast, and Left Coast? And you go, what's going to work for you, and do we need to change some stuff? There's probably templates that you guys are using that are better than the ones we got. So we incorporate those into. But I will say this. There's not calls to actions or questions at the end of every template for them to reply back. You're missing opportunity because then you're just getting information with no call to action. So what I mean by that is, like, you're asking them when would we come out for a test drive. You're asking them to re-engage with you. You're just giving information, not asking a question. And they're like, okay, cool. Like, really, that's like you're having a conversation, and we have to create engagement and make them ask a question. So I'll be more than happy to send up our follow-up schedule. That's actually in the Unfair Advantage book that everyone's going to get. You will see, let me back that up, so you actually will get some examples. Katie, I think it's you asked. And
yes,
in the follow-up process we recommend is actually in the book. I think it's in the appendix of when and how to communicate with the customer. There's also some example templates in there. Not, 90 days worth, but there is some. I will say in the slide deck that you're going to get, it's so powerful at the beginning is like, hey, the language I do use, and I would challenge you guys, I learned this from Jeff Wyant, he was a Toyota digital rep for us, taught me to use language vehicle purchase request. I don't thank them for their inquiry, I don't thank them for their time, I don't thank them for kicking the internet tire, I'm thanking them for their vehicle purchase request. When I leave a message, hey, Eliana, thank you so much for your vehicle purchase request. When I talk to them, thank you so much for your vehicle purchase request. They're looking to buy a car. It's very subtle, very, very subtle. But just like Jerry Tebow teaches, he says there, do you have a pencil handy? Let's look at a pencil handy. It makes them think. No, but I have a pen. It's the same thing. It's the same type of mentality and principle. You're getting in the back of their head that they're looking to buy a car. And so, beginning template says, thank you so much for a vehicle purchase request. The car you're looking for is available for sale. Boom, done. I got it. I got it. You want it. Here's the price. There you go.
Yeah, we already have some. I'm surprised at how many. You guys are hardcore. I have so many people that are still on this webinar, and I thank you so much. But we do have a lot of people who are writing and saying that they already have The Unfair Advantage, and it's a great book, great read, lots of great stuff in there. So Katie already said thank you. But certainly if you want more information from Mark, and the kinds of things that maybe him and his company can do for you, that's why we have his contact information up there. Don't be shy. Say hi. He's a nice fella. Okay? And Kim, yes, you're getting the ebook as everyone is today, and a link to the ebook is going to be emailed to you in the same email where the link to the recording for this webinar is. So don't worry, you're all getting it today, all right? I do want to get to... okay, Seth wrote in something that, in response to something that you said. He said, can I get some more info on the rollover leads back to GM? Did I hear that correct? Is that true? Well, yes. Andrew said it was true, and Mark said it was true, so it must be true.
Well, because what's happening is that I don't want to speak on behalf of any of the third-party lead providers. I mean, that's how we have GM third parties. I mean, that's where they're getting they're not doing it. They're buying it from someone else. So where are they going to get it? From some of the top lead providers in the market. So that makes sense. I'm sure it's very, very true. But I did get duplicates as well. So it's not necessarily that the manufacturer gets the leftovers, because I know that for a fact that's not the case. Because I'll get in a third-party lead and then get a GM lead. And it's the exact same thing.
Right.
And so that's why I stated, hey, talk to your third-party lead provider. If I get one from the manufacturer because I'm buying their third-party lead, will I get credit back for it or get a replacement lead? So you want to make sure that can happen. So so I don't know if it's necessarily a rollover, because obviously they got big pockets and they can resell it, and I don't know how that all works. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah. And we have people, one from Chrysler, speaking about Chrysler, one speaking about Hyundai. Your experience is GM. So yeah, everyone has different experience, but it's all basically, they're all saying the same thing.
Okay.
So it must be true. Okay. This one comes to us from Larry. He says, ask Mark if he misses Larry Molenberg. So I'm asking you, do you miss Larry Molenberg?
I love Larry Molenberg, and he was funny. He called me. Did he text me? No. He did call me while we were on here. So, Larry, why did you call me while I'm actually on the webinar? I do not know. But I do miss Larry. Larry's a good guy.
Okay. And last question comes to us from Amber. She says, Mark, what time are you going to leave to take your future hot bride to lunch? I'm sorry, what's the name of your hot bride?
Amber, hey.
Well, Amber, glad to have
you.
you.
I'm bringing home the bacon, baby. I'm bringing home the bacon. I'll come take you for some bacon here pretty soon.
Amber, I tell you what, congratulations on your engagement, and I'm going to let him go pretty darn soon. Mark, thank you so much. What a great webinar. I'm so sorry to keep you so long, and I hope you have a fantastic lunch. And I know your big day is coming up soon, you and Amber, so I want to wish you in advance many, many of the warmest wishes I could send my way to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And for
Well,
all of
she
you,
hadn't said yes, so she's got the 2 ways, so thank you for that. I need all the help I can get. She hadn't said yes.
oh, she hasn't?
Correct,
You've already
yeah.
set the date? All right, cool.
We got
Hey,
the date, yeah.
I want you to know, Amber, too, that I actually set a date with Mark as well. He is going to be coming back to do another webinar with me May 30th. So we're very much looking forward to that. So all you people out there in webinar land, please write that down on your calendars. May 30th, and we'll get some more Marc McGurren up here in the Dealer On webinar series. Mark, fabulous, fabulous job. I didn't even get to all the questions. They were so good. But thank you. I feel guilty keeping you any longer.
No worries.
Okay, so we're way past the hour long, but again, any questions that weren't answered during the time allotted are going to be answered directly by email today. And reminding the audience, very important, the link to download a copy of this webinar recording is going to be emailed to you later today for your reference. Share it with your friends and colleagues. And today's webinar is also going to be posted online within 24 hours. So just go to dealeron.com/webinars and view our upcoming webinar schedule. Access any of our past webinars by going to the on-demand webinar link. And also, at the conclusion of this webinar, in just a minute, you're going to receive a short survey. Please fill it out. We're always looking for great feedback. Give Mark his props and tell him what a great job he did, and we're going to randomly select a couple of people from those completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. And don't forget, in that same email is going to be that link to the ebook Unfair Advantage. So if you don't get that email, or it somehow gets blocked in your spam folder or whatever, make sure you go hunt it down or write to me directly and I'll get it over to you, okay? Dealer On is going to be at the upcoming NADA convention in Orlando. We're going to be at booth 3259. We got speaking sessions going on. You got to come and visit me. I'm going to be there. I got to meet you people. I love my peoples. I got to meet you.
I'll be there too. We'll be like a mile apart, but they come visit us.
I know, right? You're on the total other side. But come and find me because I'm giving out the tickets for NADA's Ultimate Party at Blue Martini Nightclub. That's Saturday, February 9th. It's from 9 p.m. to whenever, and you don't want to miss that. And if that wasn't enough of a reason to come visit us, come by our booth anytime between Friday and Monday. Speak with a Dealer On representative, and you could win our grand prize. What is it? It is a free franchise website for a full year from, dare I say, the best of the best, Dealer On. It is valued at $18,000. You just can't miss that. And hey, as if that wasn't enough to go to NADA in Orlando, PCG is also going to be at the upcoming NADA convention. They're going to be at booth 137. So you got to stop by and say hi. They have this amazing new tool called the ROI Bot. It's the first and only vendor-neutral platform that gives you insights into all of your marketing activities by consolidating all of your vendor reports into one easy-to-use executive dashboard. And they are going to be telling everyone first showing of the book, another new book everyone's been waiting for. It's called Selling Cars in the Digital Age. Brian Posh, our very own Marc McGurren right here, Glenn Posh, and Edward Schaefer share their most successful car dealers in the country are doing to amplify their profits in an increasing digital world. So lots of reasons to go to NADA. Gosh, I hope we see you there. And of course, don't forget to check out that best-selling ebook, Unfair Advantage. That link is coming to you later this afternoon. Right, Mark?
That is correct. It is correct.
And invitations will be going out tomorrow for our next webinar. Increase leads by 50%, leveraging A/B testing, and how the brain works. So the question is, are you unhappy with your current website conversion rate, or are you always looking for ways to improve the number and quality of your leads? Well, Dealer On co-founder Amir Amirzvani will give you dealers a framework for influencing online visitors using proven techniques, case studies, and neuromarketing principles. He's going to show you how these techniques can be applied to create highly persuasive offers that capture your visitors' attention and make them want to engage. If you spend a lot of time, money, and effort driving traffic to your website only to be disappointed with the conversion, well, then this is one webinar you can't afford to miss. And if you've never had the pleasure of hearing one of Amir's presentations, well, you are totally in for a treat. Oh, and I should also mention, he's going to be giving away a prize worth $18,000 on next week's webinar. live. I'm sweating just thinking about all this excitement. So this is going to be another fabulous presentation by your friends at DealerOn. And don't forget, DealerOn's weekly webinars are held every Thursday, 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. If you have a webinar subject you want to hear about, including from our Marc McGurren on May 30th, then get in touch with me or Mark and let us know. We love hearing from you. Track me down online. Email me at eliana@dealeron.com. I'm on all the automotive social websites. And thank you. Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got a lot out of it. And I hope to see you all on a future webinar in our continuing education series. Have yourselves a good one.